So every year Call of Duty releases a new game, but it seems like lately, over the past few years, every year Call of Duty's average players go down. They stop playing the game and they start playing something else, and this is mostly due to the fact that these games haven't been the best that they could possibly be, because most of the time when a new game is released, it's usually incomplete. There has so many issues that they need to fix, and it seems like the end of Call of Duty will be similar to the way Guitar Hero ended. So before we talk about Call of Duty, let me explain how Guitar Hero met its end and how it's a lot similar to how Call of Duty might reach its end. What I mean by this is that COD has been in the decline for so long now, and it's a lot similar to what happened to Guitar Hero back in the day. When Guitar Hero was at the top, it slowly but surely started losing their average players, and Activision pulled the plug on that to the point where they just didn't make any more Guitar Hero games. See, Activision at one point was in control of Guitar Hero. In 2009, they released like 6 games, and those games were just like incomplete. Similar to how Call of Duty releases a game every year, but at the beginning of every game, or at least at the start of every game, it's incomplete. There's a lot of like features missing, a lot of game modes. It's not the finished product, and that was the problem with Guitar Hero. In 2009, they released like 6 games, and none of them were the finished product. They were so poorly made. And there was even one more game called Guitar Hero Smash Hits, and it was filled with the best songs of all the previous Guitar Hero titles. And the problem with this was it was clearly like nostalgia bait, right? You trying to get players to play the game by showing them something that they liked before in the past. But this was basically the definition of milking. That's what critics said it was. And now if you look at Call of Duty today, it's almost the same thing with Call of Duty Black Ops 6, Black Ops 7, Modern Warfare 3. A lot of the game and even the story within the game is basically nostalgia from games you played in the past. So from the campaign to the characters in game, and even some of the maps that you've played, a lot of things that they bring back from previous COD titles. But back to Guitar Hero, like I said, in 2009 they released 6 games. That is way too many games for one year, and so because there were so many, no one was truly interested in just getting all of them, since they were all probably $60. Another problem was Rock Band. Rock Band was the competition to Guitar Hero, and they make similar games, and usually competition is good because you want to make the better game out of all of your competitors. But the problem was they were also releasing multiple games that year. In 2009, I think they released like 3, and you just had way too many games to choose from. So with every game costing $60, not many people just wanted to buy all of them. And it's the same now with first-person shooters, specifically Call of Duty and their competition. So Call of Duty and Battlefield, right? That's $80 now. $80 per game. That's $160. No one's gonna want to spend that amount of money. Hell nah. So similarly to Guitar Hero, not only does Call of Duty have competition, the prices of all products, all games have gone up, and things are getting more expensive. The cost of living is more expensive. And so when you look at the games that are released now compared to Call of Duty, right, you really start to see why their average players have gone down. Especially when there are games that you can play for free, and so other games like their competitors costing the same amount of money, and the potential reality that the Call of Duty game that you purchased for that year might be terrible at launch, and it'll be some time before they make changes and fix a lot of the bugs, and they might not even fix any of the bugs, because then they could just gonna sell you the solution in the next year's game. Kind of like how Black Ops 6 had many problems, and then Black Ops 7 ended up fixing them all. Black Ops 7 is still $80, by the way. So this is when Activision learned from their mistakes, because instead of making multiple COD titles a year, they just decided to make one. But they didn't do this with Guitar Hero, which cost Activision a lot of money because they were doing poorly in sales. And then they decided, you know what, this game is no longer profitable, we need to stop making it. They ended up pulling the plug on Guitar Hero. If you're a fan of COD, then this should be very concerning to you, because on the day that Call of Duty is no longer profitable in the eyes of Activision, they just might pull the plug on it the same way they did Guitar Hero. So this is just an assumption, but considering how Microsoft owns Activision now, and if you know anything about Microsoft, they run their corporations poorly. Any gaming corporation, they run poorly to the point where their most recent games are doing terrible. Activision was already doing bad even before Microsoft got ownership, and now that Microsoft has ownership, things are just going to get even worse. This is why I say that Call of Duty will eventually come to an end, because they're being run by companies that are full of greed. They don't care about you. I could be wrong, and maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, because every now and then Activision will make changes and actually listen to the fans, but this is only when their backs are against the wall and they have no other choice but to make good changes in order to be successful. It might already be too late, because when you lose trust of the fans, eventually it doesn't matter how good your product is or how good the game comes out to be. And you can see this with Black Ops 7. Black Ops 7 is genuinely one of the best Call of Duties in recent years, but because they had lost so much trust from the fans, they did poorly on sales. So earlier I brought up Microsoft because they own the rights to a lot of gaming companies. And so you just look at the pattern of how these gaming companies are doing after they've been bought by Microsoft. You should be worried, very worried, because they don't have a good track record. So in order for COD to fail, Microsoft and or Activision would have to come to the conclusion that Call of Duty is no longer profitable. And so all it would take in order for this to happen is for one of their competitors, their gaming competitors, to make a better game that everybody is playing instead of COD, thus causing the company to lose a lot of money in sales due to one very popular game that's going to drop very soon, this being GTA 6. When GTA 6 drops, all the COD servers are going to have zero purpose of existing because their average players are going to be gone. Almost all of them, but I could be wrong, because at the end of the day GTA 6 might just get delayed for another year and COD might just have a chance then. But right now it is set to release like late 2026, so as long as it comes out, we gonna be alright. I didn't talk about everything regarding Guitar Hero, but there is a YouTuber named RoboCast who inspired the idea for this video. I think you should go check him out if you want to learn more about Guitar Hero and its downfall.